Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing the Rogers Civil War. Now, David, a lot of this drama has been playing out in public. Can you describe some of the public comments that have been involved, some of the people who have been involved in the public comments, and whether this level of publicity is unusual in a corporate governance dispute like this?
Well, it's certainly unusual, Christine, and we're talking about it today, and we've seen the amount of media coverage it's received. I'd like to take a step back because I think the reason that it's become of so much interest is it brings in a few strands of groups that are interested in this issue. On one level, you have just the gossip involving one of Canada's richest families. In the second level, you have lawyers who are interested in this issue as a corporate governance issue. It brings up a lot of relevant issues going in the future for a large corporation. And then you have the pure corporate governance theoretical issues that are implicated in what Michael was referring to with this dual class structure. So there are these groups that are all interested in what's happening here, which has led to the kind of attention the situation is getting, not to mention that it's occurring in the context of a major transaction.
Now, Michael, the case was brought in British Columbia. Can you explain to our viewers why it was brought in British Columbia? When most people think of Rogers, they think of Toronto. Why did it go? Why was it brought in BC? Is there a reason for that? And do you think that there are any parts of BC law that might have resulted in making it a more favorable jurisdiction for Ed? Might the result have been different if it had been brought somewhere else?
Well, Rogers is incorporated in British Columbia. The British Columbia Corporations Act permits this structure. So it was done intentionally in that jurisdiction. So they had no choice but to bring this dispute amongst the shareholders there. Raises the larger question, whether governments want to permit this in the future. It seems to be, fine as it stands in British Columbia. I don't know how, if a company of this size could ever transition to that anymore after these family dynasty led companies go by the wayside. I mean, the Shaws are about to be acquired by Rogers. So there's not very many left of this size that could benefit from that kind of structure.
Now, Michael, one of the things that's a little bit awkward about the case is that the family is still all a part of that family trust. So what is this going to mean for Mrs. Rogers, Ed's mother, for his sisters, and their role in the company in the future?
Well, they have a role in the trust. They have no role in the company. And really the way the trust is set up is unless you get 2/3 of that advisory committee to remove Ed, he can do what he wants, essentially. I know it's tough to swallow sometimes. So other than, reading, speaking of voyeuristic, other than reading the interesting tweets, there's not much they can do.
Now, the idea that Ed can do what he wants, this I think makes a lot of shareholders perhaps uncomfortable. So what do you think this means for shareholders, David? And what lessons might the company or other companies learn about corporate practices from what happened here?
Well, this is the interesting theoretical issue, Christine. Should we allow these types of structures? There's a lot of debate. Those who believe in shareholder democracy and the ability of shareholders to control major corporate decisions, they are definitely nervous at a decision like this that gives one person with the stroke of a pen the ability to control a $26 billion company, 33rd largest company in Canada, I think it is. So some people are quite nervous about that. This issue of single shareholders controlling corporations by controlling their voting shares has arisen a lot in the US. Snapchat was listed, I think in 2017. It was the first company that was listed where the founding shareholder controlled all the voting shares. Some exchanges then moved to make that practice illegal. They wouldn't list the shares of companies where voting control was in the hands of founders. That's what we have here, and I think it's brought to light the fact that this is occurring in a company where we wouldn't have expected, Rogers. It's actually controlled essentially by one person. And that has brought that to light. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, economically efficient or inefficient, that's an interesting theoretical debate. I tend to come down on the side of being less concerned about it. But that is a somewhat longer discussion that I don't know if we can get into today.
But just to be clear, this isn't an uncommon share structure, right? Just briefly, David, a lot of companies use this structure.
They do. It's more common, Christine, in let's say in the technology realm, where the founding group wants to maintain control.
David, we've got to go, but we'll pick this up after the break.